considering starting a private practice? Before you take any action, hear me out. My name's Jamie and I've helped 13 physicians start and scale their practice in the last 3 years. There's 6 things you need to consider before you even open your practice. In this video, I'm going to share what those 6 factors are, and we're going to talk about the pitfalls that lead to unsuccessful launches, and then we're going to talk about the easiest way to successfully open your practice. So let's begin on what those factors are. The first is your why. Why do you want to start a private practice? What about starting a private practice gets you excited? Your why is going to keep you going through the times that are really hard. So it's important to know what your why is so you can come back to it when things get hard. The next thing you need to think about is how many people in your specialty are in that area. Where are you going to practice? It's important to know what your competition is. You need to know how many other private practice physicians there are in that specialty, as well as how many work for a hospital in that specialty. You don't want to be someplace where there's a lot of competition unless you already have a lot of connections, and you'll be able to utilize those connections and it won't be as big of an issue. But it is something to consider and think about. The other part of it is going to be how much cash should you be asking a bank for, or whoever's going to be funding your project, right? You need to figure out how much money you're going to need to float you for, at least 1 to 2 years. The best way to do this is to write up a business plan, which brings me to my next point. Do you even have a business plan? It's so important to have a business plan because it's going to help lay out what your mission statement is and why you're doing this, which kind of goes back to your why, but also helps you get organized and figure out exactly what kind of staff you're going to need. And it helps make you focus on how much you're going to make in the first 1 year, really, let alone 2 and 5 years, can all be in this business plan, and you can work your way up to how much you're going to make. Fourth factor is how much money are you going to need? There's 2 parts to this. The first is going to be how much money do you need of cash on the front end to kind of get you going? Lawyers and consultants and deposits on a practice, like a location, things like that. I would say ideally you're going to want at least 50 to 100,000 cash just to have for security. Then your next part's going to be how much money are you going to ask the bank for? This depends on what kind of practice you have. Are you having a procedure room? Are you going to need what kind of big and large equipment? Like, are you going to have an x-ray machine, a C-arm, things like that? All these play a factor, and the best way to figure that out is to have a business plan, which leads me to, do you have a business plan, and why a business plan is so important? Business plans are going to help you get organized, and banks are always going to ask for it. So you might as well get one to start with. We provide a template that helps, and we help our physicians come up with a great business plan. And that way, when we introduce them to the banks, it's ready to go and it gets things moving faster. So you're going to want to have, it's going to have your mission statement and things like that. I do have another video that talks about what a good business plan looks like, but just know it's super important, and it's going to help you figure out how much money you're going to be asking the bank for. It'll divide up how much money you're planning to make in the first year, and then you can even go into the second year and even up to 5 years if you want to have that in the business plan as well. The last factor to think about is how are you even going to get patients? This is super important. Do you have physicians you already know who are going to be sending you patients? If so, make a list of those physicians. Those are going to be the first people you actually go contact and let them know that you've opened your practice. Also think about how are you going to reach patients? How are you going to reach other physicians? You're going to need to go out and introduce yourself, as hard as that is, but think about what you're going to do on how to get more patients. Have that plan in place before you even start your practice, because you're going to need it. These are the 6 things you need to consider before you even begin to start your own practice. Now let's talk about what a successful launch would look like. For example, the most recent physician I have worked with is a medication management physician coming out of residency. She was wanting to start her own practice, and so working with me, we actually were able to get her up and running in 3 months. Now that is really hard to do, but she was dedicated. She did the things that I asked her to do, and we got it up and running quickly. So it's possible to get it up and running quickly. It just depends on how fast of a mover you are and if you do the things that I suggest you do in a timely manner. But we were able to get her up and running in 3 months. Her biggest challenge was trying to get funding. A little harder for a physician coming out of residency to get funding from a bank. However, there's SBA loans out there. You need to find a good bank who's good at working with those SBA loans. And if you get told no, find another bank. There's a lot of banks out there. Eventually, there's somebody willing to give you some money. So I was able to get her introduced to a few different people. She was able to get money in front of from a few different locations and get her practice up and running very quickly. The other way we started getting her referrals quickly was we got her a website that had a landing page with all the information so people could start sending over patients and she'd start getting referrals before she even opened the doors. That way, whenever she was ready to open her doors, she already had patients to see, which was amazing. So I helped her get on social media. I helped her get online. Working with a consultant makes things a lot easier because they already know the key things you need to do. Let's talk about what an unsuccessful launch might look like. If you're somebody who's not working with healthcare consultants and you're trying to do it on your own, just be careful. Make sure you know what you're doing. I actually worked with a physician who had only worked with me for a month. He received my checklist of everything he needed to do, but he actually was already a private practice physician. He worked with a group, so he knew what he was doing for the most part, and he had already had established patients and things like that, so it should have been a lot easier. However, he only worked with me for a month because he was really stressed out and needed to find a location because he was leaving this group and needed to find some place quickly so he could see patients, which I was able to help him find a location very fast. I asked one of my physicians who I knew had some extra space, and I was able to get them together, and so he had a spot to see some patients. But then he stopped working with me after a month and things started going downhill. He wasn't organized. He didn't know the processes because he was used to having the other clinic do all those things for him. So he didn't know what it takes to get patients checked in and return phone calls quickly. So he wasn't returning patients' phone calls quickly, which is a really quick way to lose your patients. He wasn't getting them scheduled quickly. He needed help and he was trying to do it all himself. He needed somebody else. He finally got somebody, from what I hear, was a virtual assistant. You just need an actual person. So again, go get money from the bank to help you hire somebody and do it correctly. End up losing all your patients and then have to start all over. This is why I believe working with somebody who's been there, done that, can make a big difference in your practice and opening the doors a lot faster. So working with a healthcare consultant can actually alleviate a lot of these burdens and stresses and issues that I've mentioned above, and they will help guide you so you don't have to have those things happen or make you think about it so you don't have those things happen. Using a healthcare consultant will save you time and money, and it'll get you where you want to go a lot faster. If you're interested in learning what is a healthcare consultant and how they can take your practice to the next level, check out this video. If you're interested in connecting with me, click the link below and schedule a call. See you in the next video.